All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome back. It is so nice to get to hear chatter in the building again. And as families do, right, we gather and then we actually converse with one another and chat, and so it's nice to see the ESM family gathered together again as one. So we are thankful for a night like this where we get to launch into new school year, to get to tell you a little bit about introductions, meeting some of the faculty and the staff that will be serving you and your families and your students throughout the year. We will do a few handbook highlights and run through the calendar a little bit, so a lot of information. As you're getting situated, you should have entered and received the parent handbook, which we'll use as a guide at some point, as well as the agenda for the night. And on the back is the map that you'll use when we're done or toward the end of the session in here to know which classrooms to go to. But these are really good moments, and I think about over the course of our calendar, there aren't a ton of times actually where the entire school community gets together as one group. So Back to School night is one of them, right? We have Carnival, that'll be a PTL event, which is one. The Vesper service is one. But because they're so few in number, we really do try to relish the chance to be together. And so we look forward to a night like tonight, getting to share information and to get reacquainted both with old friends and new. But let us begin this evening with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, you made this day and made it good and have provided so many opportunities and mapped them out for us already in this upcoming school year. We thank you for the faculty and staff who have been called to serve the children at ESM. We thank you for the churches that support this ministry. And we thank you for these families who have entrusted their children to our care. We ask for your rich blessings on each of the children this school year, that they may grow as your disciples and in turn help grow the kingdom. Bless all that we do to your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. One of the things that you'll hear a lot over the course of this year is our theme for the year. So this is our theme, which is surrounded, and it's based on the verses from Hebrews chapter 12, where the author of the Hebrews says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus." And I think it's important, we're going to celebrate all the ways that your children are surrounded or wrapped in the love of the faculty and staff that are here, the way that we are caring for them holistically, not just in their academics, but in their spiritual welfare and physical and emotional as well. So you are surrounded by this cloud of witnesses, but it's surrounded for purpose. And I think that's what's really important about this verse, is that the purpose here is what we get to do, the let us statements. And it says, let us lay aside every weight, right? The things that might burden us, our own shortcomings, our own failures. We can set those aside because they've already been won for us through Jesus. It also says to let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. This is back to school night, but we're like 180 days out from finishing this school year. So there is some running to do, and we will want to do it with endurance as we think through all of the growing and the learning that the students will do over the course of the year, the highs and the lows, right, that will ebb and flow over the course of the year, but we are running with endurance, and this race is set before us, not just this year, but the years to come as well. And the way that we can do it all is by letting us look to Jesus, and it is Christ who centers all that we do here at ESM, and we'll continue to look to Jesus as the author and perfecter of our faith and the one from whom all blessings flow. So we are thankful to be surrounded. Another way to celebrate and look at this, and it might be a little bit hard to see on this image, is thinking of being wrapped by something that's always bigger than yourself, right? So in the middle there are the students and the families, you, and we're trying to wrap you with the care and support that you'll receive from the faculty and staff. But the faculty and staff here are wrapped together by the support that we get from our two partner congregations, Emmanuel and St. Michael, and all of us are wrapped entirely or surrounded by God's love. And so this is the thing that we get to celebrate on being surrounded, that we get surrounded for a purpose. It frees us for the purposes and the plans that God has for us. And that is what will be the highlight and the theme and the focus of our school year here together. A few introductions. So I am blessed to get to serve along with an absolutely astounding administrative team. And so I'm going to call up Jen Ackman, Carrie Lattin, and Melissa Greener, please. And they are going to in turn introduce their teams as well. They did fantastic work over the course of the summer, right? All the prep that comes into even a night like this, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but they are wonderful to get to do so together, and we're looking forward to a great year. And they are the ones that then get to pour into our team so that they can pour into you and your children. So we will, I think we have a hand held up here. We do. And starting with the preschool lead teachers, if you wouldn't mind come up.
So we have 4 preschool lead teachers over at our Union Street campus. I'll have you ladies give a wave. Mrs. Lebemoff, she's new to us this year, not completely new to ESM though. She worked here a few years ago and is back now as lead teacher in our 3-4s class over at the Union campus. And then Miss Gwen Canning is pre-K teacher over at the Union campus. And here at the Getz campus, we have Mrs. Baines in our 3-4s class and Mrs. Kobeberger in our pre-K.
All right, Getz teachers, come on up. So the Getz Road campus is kindergarten through 3rd grade, along with preschool here. Mrs. Hildebrand, yep. Have a few more than preschool. All right. All right, so we have Mrs. Stephanie Miller, kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Jewel Abrash, also kindergarten, Mrs. Mary Smith, 1st grade, Mr. Kevin McGuigan, PE, and then he also shares time over at the Union campus, Mrs. Beth Ann Wright, 1st grade teacher, Mrs. Jen Clendenin, and she is one of our curriculum coaches with a focus on literacy for us this year. Mrs. Dana Hildebrand, our resource teacher here at the Getz campus. Mrs. Amy Kono, 3rd grade teacher. Mrs. Kim Faley, 2nd grade teacher. Our 2nd grade, Mrs. Smith. A lot of times here we call 1st grade Mrs. Smith, 2nd grade Mrs. Smith, since we have 2. Mrs. Carol Miller, so she is one of our rotational teachers. So as the teachers have wellness days, she fills in every classroom here. Mr. Paul Book, 3rd grade teacher. Mrs. Pauline Benner, so Pauline will be our music teacher this year, as well as a part-time resource teacher. And then Mrs. Karen Hauser, one of our Title I teachers.
And then I will ask for all of the Union teachers to come up, and I'll make you guys funnel and center up a little bit. My name's Melissa Greener. I'm the assistant principal over at our Union Street campus. I'm very excited to be starting the year with a fully renovated building for the first day of school, and I know all of the teachers are excited about that too. No one's in crazy locations. So we just want to introduce all of them to you. So right here to start off is Miss Kathy Palmruder. She is a 6th grade homeroom teacher. Abby McCoy, she is also a 6th grade homeroom teacher. Mrs. Rachel Johnson teaches 5th grade, as with Mr. Josh Eggold is also a 5th grade teacher. Mrs. Anna Davis, she does middle school math for us. Miss Johanna Meisner, which won't be for very long throughout the year. She is our 8th grade, one of our 8th grade homeroom teachers. Then Mrs. Kristen Laban, she is a 7th grade homeroom teacher. Mrs. Amber Franz is new to us this year. Excited to welcome her. She's also a 7th grade homeroom teacher. Mrs. Rachel Malone is a 4th grade homeroom. Mrs. Susan Murphy also teaches 4th grade. Mrs. Kelly Steffen is in charge of our resource department over at Union. Hopefully many of you can get to meet her today. Then Mr. Dan Rubrick, he is a new PE teacher to us this year, splitting that time with Mr. McGuigan. Mrs. Lisa Heilman, she teaches, she's in the resource and then also Title I as well. Mrs. Lisa Meeks is also a resource teacher for us. Mr. Jeremy Staub, he teaches 8th grade homeroom. And then finally, Mrs. Susan Frerking, she is our instructional coach over at the Union campus, similar to Jen Clendenin, and we are just very thankful to have this amazing team serving all of those 4th through 8th grade students over at Union. So thank you, all of you.
So as you can imagine, playing the name game here at ESM is awesome. They all passed, so that is positive. I want to draw your attention to just a couple more people, and then we have a whole staff, too, that helps contribute to this ministry as well. But Mrs. Heather Carter, if you could please stand. Mrs. Heather Carter is the school counselor here and can work with students on an as-needed basis and is assisting with their social and emotional health. And then Pastor Meyer, if you could please identify yourself in the back. He is waving. Pastor Meyer is the shepherd of the school and tends to the spiritual health of the students here as well. And Mrs. Lash will hate that I'm doing this, but Mrs. Lash is in the back, and as anyone who understands a school knows, she runs the place. So if you have any questions, please go see Mrs. Lash. And I will have to suffer the consequences of that tomorrow. But lastly, if you would, faculty included on this, could all the faculty and staff at ESM please stand for a moment? And I just want you to see the large number that are here serving and assisting your students each and every day. Let's please thank God for their service at ESM. All of them are the ones who have answered the call by saying, "Here I am, send me," and they're the ones doing the work of the mission and ministry at ESM. And the mission is what drives everything that we do. And you'll hear us talk about the 3 pillars of children growing in their faith and their learning and their relationships. It is the reason why we exist. And when you entrust your children to our care, it is what we promise to provide with God's help and support. In order to do it, we do know that everyone plays a part. Right? So these pillars of faith, learning, and relationships. And for new families who've gotten to meet me over the last couple of years, we talk about this when we first make introductions, right? Is that the part that you play is a really important one in your own child's lives, but also in partnering with us as a school. Help your children be faithful, we invite you to be in worship. And you'll always have a home here at Emmanuel or St. Michael, or to worship where you go as well. And if you haven't found a home yet, there will be opportunities as your children sing for some of the services in Vesper service. And I do want to point out that chapel is open to everybody. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But that's a public service where if you're available, we invite you to join us for worship at chapel as well. Be aware. This is paying attention to the newsletters we send as a school from the classroom, the homeroom, access to Sycamore, tending to how your students' academic progress, being in communication if you ever have a faculty or staff member reach out to you. We want you to be aware of what's happening at the school, and that will better assist you in assisting your children. And then be present. There will be all kinds of opportunities for you to get involved, like a night like tonight, but then don't let it stop here, right? Don't let this just be a drop-off culture. We want you to be here and to be present in the activities that the students are participating in, to celebrate their growth, and in some of the events that we plan as a school. Your children have a task as well, and we talk about what makes a good eagle, and it's those 3 things. We want them to be open to growing in the faith and all the ways that God will work with them while they're here at school. We want them to do their best. God does not ask them to be the best at anything, but to do their best. And if they work hard, we have the support, as you've seen tonight, to be able to assist them in their growth. But they have a part to play as well, which is to do their best. And lastly, to be kind, to build a positive relationship. Kindness costs nothing. There will be times when they aren't kind to others, others aren't kind to them, but we work through that in a spirit of grace and understanding and resolution. And we want to bring people together so that we are demonstrating and showing a kind attitude and spirit in this world and at ESM. Our faculty and staff then commit and promise some of the same. In faith, we promise to be faith-filled. Your children every day are going to be surrounded by people, an entire faculty and staff for whom their faith matters, and it's that amount of surrounding them with God's love that we commit to in being faith-filled. We also will work hard. We're asking it of the students. You will see people working very hard to be able to deliver what we do here. They care deeply about their own professionalism and how they're carrying out the mission of this school, and they are working tremendously hard to be able to do all of the things that we can do at ESM. And above all, we want to be a model of Christ's love so that students and families alike can see what it means to know that we are Christians by our love. So that is our commitment, but everyone plays a part in this partnership. And we are thankful for the partnership that we have with the churches and the families. Lutheran Education started as a support or an extension of the ministry of the churches to let the children come and to raise them up in the faith. And so we are thankful that Emmanuel and St. Michael have had the historic foresight to do this, that education is central to their ministry, and then we get to carry it out and deliver it here for all of those at ESM. They help us in many ways, not just financial, but also spiritual, physical, with their leadership, with their presence. You will see them present. They were here greeting tonight as well. We are very thankful and blessed by the partnership we have with Emmanuel and St. Michael. But the partnership with church, school, and family includes family, and there are ways to get involved too. I said be present, but the PTL would be one of those ways. Nice, and we can all silence the alarms on our phones. I didn't do a cell phone check at the beginning, but that bypasses those anyway. So, get involved with the PTL. We have Jen Clendenin and Amy Sturr are helping lead that group. Lisa Klein and Angie Rich also would be two other point people on this, and we would like your involvement in any number of ways to participate in the events that PTL make possible for us. But that's a really active group. They love on the faculty and staff throughout the year, and it's a nice way to be present. As family partners, I might argue that your primary role is to get the kids here, because that's when we get to do all of the mission work that we've talked about. And we want you to get them here and get them here on time. This graphic should be familiar to you, but it is also in the handbook if you need further reference, and that maps out the kindergarten through 8th grade day. And I do want you to take out your handbook now. I want to highlight just a few parts of it. For those of you who have children in preschool, there's a supplement to this handbook that Mrs. Ackman will go over with you in Luther Hall when we break for sessions later. So you'll have a supplement to this, but everybody should follow along, even if you only have a preschooler. This is a nice preview of what's to come in kindergarten through 8th grade, and it will be the talking points here for the next few minutes. So if you open to page 8, is where you'll see a little bit about communication. Page 8 talks about Sycamore, and if you cannot get on Sycamore, you need to find out how quickly. Mrs. Clark will talk about that as well, but that's your hub for a lot of information. We use it to communicate. You have access to your students' academic progress, to their attendance records that way. Unfortunately, it's also the way we can communicate some disciplinary matters as well, but you need to be on Sycamore. Financial accounts are there as well, so please make sure that you have access to that. Pages 8 through 10, there are a couple sections in there that talk about chapel and church work, church services. And I've said it before, the worship life is central to what we do here as a community of faith and learning. And we especially want you here when your kids are singing. But as I had mentioned before, chapel is open to the public. And we would love to see you join us whenever you can. Opening chapel this week, Wednesday, is on a little bit of a different schedule. It's at 8:45 at the Union campus, and it's 10 o'clock here at the Getz campus. And we'd love to see as many of you join us for worship as you can on Wednesday and in the weeks to come. Visitation and drop-off, oops, I advanced the slide. Visitation and drop-off policies. Open to page 11, please. This is a point of emphasis for this year too. We want you to be present, but also when we're doing school, we do need to make sure that there's at least some separation, that you've actually entrusted your kids to us. So visitation policies at Getz and at Union are slightly different. Here at Getz, you can walk your children to their classroom, but please don't loiter. You really are just walking them to their classroom. That's not the time to conference with a teacher. That's really just an opportunity to get your kids to where they need to go. And then we ask that you set up separate appointments if you would need to meet with a teacher. So yes, at Getz, you can walk into the building and deliver your kids to their classroom. At Union, we'll do that for the first 3 days. So if you want to walk your child to their class at Union, you can do that Wednesday through Friday of this week. After that, we ask that you, if you're going to walk them to the door, you drop them off at the door, or they can just go through the regular car line there as well. So that's the visitation policy. Anything beyond those, if you're not just taking your child to class according to those two policies, then you would actually have to sign into the office and get a visitor badge. And that helps us keep everybody safe and know who's in the building at all times. So thank you for tending to the visitation policy. Page 12, bus and transportation. This is largely a reminder. Being a bus driver is one of the harder jobs that we have here. We are thankful for Terry Hammond and Jim Woody to do it. But if you are using bus services, make sure that you know when pickup and drop-off is happening. And bus drop-off, if you are bused from Union to the Getz campus at the end of the day, you have one of two options. You can either get picked up by your family right away, and we'll have somebody monitoring this. You're either picked up by your family at the Getz campus right away, or you have to check into extended care. You can't just wander the halls or go somewhere else and say your parents are on the way. You're either picked up right when the bus drops off, or then you do have to check into extended care. So that's bus transport at the end of the day. Car lines, pages 13 through 14. At Getz, we have sort of a new thing that's happening, and we're just going to have to learn together, but there's a huge construction project across the way. So we have people that will be monitoring exactly what traffic looks like. There's a slight adjustment to when you would drop off, so don't come in the first aisle. The construction workers are using the first aisle of parking spots, and then they're just walking across the street. So you drive to the second aisle, turn right, and then follow the perimeter. So you can still park then within the parking lot and walk your children to the school, or just follow the arrows for the car line and you're following the perimeter, and that would get you all the way around. At Union, on the next page, page 14, just please pay attention to the one-way streets. And if you're going to park on Jackson or Union lot and walk your kids into school, you actually have to walk them across the street. Do not park across the street and then say, I'll watch you go. We just have too many cars and people at that time to say, just send the kids and let them go. All right, we want to keep everybody safe and get them there. If you would like to walk your kids into the school building, you may do that, but you do actually have to park at Jackson or Union and walk them physically across the street. And there's more construction in that area and neighborhood too, so just be very, very mindful of cars going the wrong way on the one-way streets. That's another reason why we would like families to walk their children across the street if that's how they're doing drop-off. Pages 14 through 16, a lot on attendance and tardiness. A few points there. On tardies, there are excused tardies, right, which is when you have appointments and you call into the office. But anything that's unexcused, please see the progression. And new this year, for frequent tardies, there will be plenty of communication. There's communication at 5, there's a meeting at 9, but at the 10th tardy, we will be assessing a fee per student. So it's $25 if you've been unexcused tardy for 10 times, right? And then we'll do a $50 fee at 15. But if you get to 18 tardies, that's 10% of our school year, and we have to figure out a way to get the kids there on time. It's disruptive to the school environment if they're coming late, and so that's the way that we're going to be addressing it. At 18, we would implement what's called a tardy probation, which is enrollment then is dependent upon fixing it in the future years. So you would enter school the next year on a tardy probation to make sure that we're figuring out how to get children to school on time. But the communication is meant to give us an opportunity to find out what's happening and to assist in the ways that we can. It's similar for attendance. So attendance also follows a similar pattern of notifications at 5, 9, and then it increases at 10 and so forth. We're bound to the state rules on this. So anytime, if you are absent, either excused or unexcused, 18 times in a school year, the state defines that as chronic absenteeism. We need the kids in school. We can't do it without. We understand illness. We understand even a predetermined vacation, although you should read the policy on that as well. But it is really important that the kids are here. So we'll have tons of opportunity to communicate, whether it's excused or unexcused. But at 18, we do actually have to communicate with the state. And so we would do an attendance probation at 18 as well, again, for the following school year to make sure that it's not a repeated pattern from year over year. So those are the attendance and tardy highlights. Dress code would be the next one. Dress code is on pages 17 through 18. I do want to make one comment. Nobody likes talking about the dress code, right? But the why actually matters. So we don't have a uniform, we have a dress code. I think there are two really important whys on this. One is that it actually eliminates some socioeconomic difference too, and so there's sort of, they're not uniform in what they wear, but there's some sense that we are here together as a community. That's especially highlighted on Fridays when we have spirit wear. And it's ESM specific spirit wear. It's not just wear whatever your favorite sports team is. It's ESM specific. So we can use that as a way to celebrate and highlight ESM community. So that's one big reason. The other big reason would be that teachers then can focus on the task at hand. Anything that's distracting from it, right, that's unique or different or something totally new, actually distracts from their ability to keep the kids safe, to get them learning, and to do what they have to do in the school. And guess what? We'll own it this time. It should help you. We'll be the bad guys, okay? So hopefully this helps you in the morning with what it means for your kids to get dressed and ready for school. We can be the bad guys and say, nope, it's the school rule, but it will help us out if you commit to it as well. So please pay attention to the highlights on dress code. A couple things are different this year. Socks, anything that's above the ankle is actually going to be treated as tights or leggings. It needs to follow the same color code. This is not a new way to express yourself. It's ankle socks, and if it's anything higher, that would need to be khaki, navy, or white. No distracting hair or accessories, and this would include things like feathers or animal headbands. They're all really cute. I have daughters that wore rooster feathers all summer long, right? They can't wear them starting on Wednesday, so we need you to help us do that as well. And then lastly, with shoes, closed toe with a heel strap on the back. So that's their regular shoe attire for the day. In PE, they do need to wear PE shoes, but this answers, I guess, the Croc question. Crocs are closed toe on the front, and if you have one with the heel in the back, that would qualify. But that's for their school day to be able to have closed toes and heels in the back. Thank you for reading and tending to the dress code. We do appreciate your support in that. Health and wellness, page 18. We have a new nurse here. Actually, Erin, could I have you stand up? Thank you. Erin Neuenschwander will be familiar to many of you because they have kids throughout the school, but she is our school nurse and will be balancing time between both Getz and Union, and thankful to have her serving in this new capacity. The only highlight that I have for health and wellness is with the 24-hour fever rule. So if they have a fever, 24 hours until they're fever-free without medication before they can come back to school. That now includes the CDC's definition of COVID. So COVID's treated as a respiratory illness now. The rule that CDC has, or the recommendation, is that a child can return to school once they're feeling better and fever-free for 24 hours. So that's how we're handling COVID for this year. That's under health and wellness. Phones and tech. The simplest rule here is not out ever. If they need to come to school with a phone, that is fine, but they really are not to have it out during school, and that's from drop-off until they reconnect with you at the end of the day. You can use the school phones for anything like that, but they're not allowed to use them on the bus, and they're not allowed to use them in extended care. So if any faculty or staff sees a student with a phone out, it wasn't supposed to be out. And what we'll do is we'll take the phone, and then a parent or guardian has to pick it up in the office. Phones will not be given back to students. They will be kept in the office until you pick it up, including if that's overnight or over the weekend. So phones are to be put away all the time and definitely not in use. The only exception to any of the connected device rules would be if there's a medical reason to have a connected device. We will work with you on an individual basis with the nurse's office and with the school administration for approval on that. But that is the phone and tech rule. And student safety, I just want to share this with you. Bottom of page 21, we do have a crisis management team that proactively looks at all things safety related. That's in the school building with our threat and security assessment. That's the policies that we have on communication, the drills that we do. So this is an active group, and it's not meant to just react to anything that could come our way. We actually have plans in place to keep your children safe and all of those who are in our building safe at all times. And so just know and have confidence to realize, right, that we have an active team that is tending to this very important aspect of your children's welfare. And the Eagles Soar motto on bottom of page 22. This is part of Christian conduct and discipline. It's a great summary of how we soar, right? And it's an acronym, and we're going to use this as a point of emphasis on various months throughout this year to talk about the things that we say allow an eagle to soar, whether they're engaged in what they aspire to do, how they're growing, how they live out their calling in Jesus, that they're encouraging one another, and that they're speaking with honesty and acting with integrity. It's a very important guide for our conduct together, both with the faculty and staff as well as the students and you as families. And so that is our motto and what we commit to together. Please do take time to read the whole thing. We just did highlights today, but there are other important things to indicate there too, including down to fine line detail like water bottles. Yes, students can have water bottles. We really do encourage you to use clear and plastic. especially at the Union campus, because that helps us keep our floors in good, solid condition and not having the big metal ones clunking and denting our brand new floors over there. So, but do pay attention. Everything in this handbook matters, and it guides our life together here once the kids are in school. And the calendar is included on the back. You've seen this multiple times now. But the calendar will, two highlights that changed from the preliminary one that went out in spring. So one is Vespers. Vespers now is on December 12th, and that is a Thursday, but note that there will be no school the following day. So there's no school on Friday, December 13th. And the last one is 8th grade graduation is going to be on May 21st. That's a Wednesday night. That is not the last day of school. That is the day that we celebrate the 8th graders, but then they are to come back for field day the next day and closing chapel on Friday. But this allows us to avoid what happened last year, which was a conflict with the soccer city championships. So we can do it on Wednesday and there will be no conflict. Those are your handbook highlights. And tend to the calendar, be present, be aware. We'll communicate a lot of information. I listed on this slide just a few upcoming calendar events, but this will come out in newsletters and other ways that we communicate, so please tend to that, and we appreciate your time and attention to it. At this time, I'm going to actually dismiss all of the teachers. You can go to your classrooms in the spaces that will have the breakouts here in just a few short minutes, and Mrs. Clark is going to run through some of those communication channels with the rest of you before we break for the next part of the evening. Who's going to do it now?
Okay, can you hear me?
You're live.
I think we're good. Okay, I'm going to go through this pretty quick. This is going to be a review for most of you, and for new families, we've talked about this a lot too. My name is Erin Clark. I serve as the Director of Admissions, but also handle a lot of the communications methods that you get here at ESM. And we will start with Sycamore. That is... There we go. Okay. If you have all gotten into Sycamore because you're all enrolled in the school at this point. So checkbox there. That means you've gotten your login, you know how to get in. If you need a refresher, just ask me or Mrs. Lash. You also got an info sheet in your mailed packet last week that has your unique username and login. I encourage you to check it frequently. Your kids' grades are updated often. You can see the lunch menu. Your financial statements are in there. There's also a feature called Pass-a-Notes that we haven't used very often, but is going to be kind of making a comeback, especially for our middle school. So you'll hear more about that. But it is really important, just as part of your job, to be aware in your students' learning. This is a really important tool for that. From there, in your Sycamore account is where you put your address, phone numbers, emergency contacts, all of those good things. And so if there's a change, just let us know and we'll take care of it. The only chance you have to change it yourself is in the admissions process or re-enrollment. So anything beyond that, you just call Mrs. Lash or myself and we'll take care of that for you. The other really important way to stay up to date on what's going on here at ESM is the weekly newsletter. So I cannot express this enough. Pay attention to your email. So the email that you provided in the system is where everything gets sent to, whether it's a batch email from Dr. Stellwagen or our weekly Thursday from Mrs. Lash. Early on in the school year, you know your email systems. They're all a little bit different. Sometimes you have to train them to do what you want it to do. So if you find on a Thursday you're not getting the email, check your spam, check those like updates or promotion boxes, train it to go into your regular or primary email. If you're not super tech savvy and you just have a question on how to make that work, I am happy to spend the time with you, so just let me know. The next tool that we use is text alerts. There was an alert that went out last week reminding you of meet and greets and registrations, so everybody should have gotten a text alert by now. My encouragement, and you can take a picture out now and get those just for you to take down as your own information, put these in your phone. Tag it as ESM text alert so you know that that's what's coming. Have the Union Street or Getz Road office marked as contacts in your phone just so that when we call, you know to pick up. So that is everybody primary parent. So if you are a mom or dad on your child's account, not all the contacts that you put in there, just mom and dad or parent or guardian. If you are primary on your family's account, you're getting text messages, okay? Next up is our website. Be in the know there. So there's lots of places that you can go to find information yourself. So I encourage you to look at the Parents tab. There is a wealth of information on bus and extended care and all sorts of things. When in doubt, if a document is shared and you can't find the email it was in, it is most likely in the links and documents. So check that section, super useful. And preschool families, so that we don't overwhelm you with all of the K-8 things, there's a special area just for you on the website. So I encourage you to check that out as well. Another great thing that I get to help with is in leading our social media. So we have so many great things that are happening at ESM, and we love to celebrate that. That is not our tool for sharing tasks that you need to do or events that are coming up. It's not a calendar page. We keep it pretty simple and just celebrating things that are happening in the classroom or field trips or special recognitions for students. So we'd love for you to like, follow, share on our Facebook and Instagram. And just know that I take very seriously student privacy, so I don't show pictures that have names on them. I don't ever put a child's name. So if you're like, why didn't we say who the spelling bee winner is and just that it was 5th grade student, that's why. These are minors, these are your children. We're not putting their names on unless I have very specific permission from you as a parent. So I just want you to know when you sign that media release, I really do take that and really just want to highlight the awesome things God is doing here, but also protect your children and their privacy. So with that, there are ways that we've given you a lot of things to do and to be mindful of, but we also have a lot of thanks for all of the things that you do to partner with us.
Yep. Thank you. And can we please thank Erin for all of her work and welcome you to the... She's often the first person that many of you encounter, so we're very thankful that she gets you equipped and ready to succeed here at ESM. And we do thank you. It is a huge responsibility, but a great opportunity that you entrust your kids to our care during a school year like this, and we're thrilled by all of the plans that God has already mapped out for them. It's going to be a fun year. We have 2 buildings intact, which is sort of amazing and novel. Last year we were reporting on all the things that went wrong over the summer, and this year we can say that it's actually quite quiet over at Union, and we're thankful for that. This is still the In All Generations campaign that Emmanuel is finishing. And there are ways to finish that too. It ended up being over a $7 million project, and we are so blessed by their partnership in doing it. And I also know that St. Michael and both of our churches are constantly reviewing the ways that they can support us and then provide the facilities necessary to carry out this school mission and ministry. And so St. Michael is reviewing their building needs right now as well, whether that's in extended care or the ways that they can serve the church ministry here too. There are ways to get involved financially to support these projects, but just know that the tuition that's assigned here is just a fraction of what it actually costs to educate, because they gift us the space and they gift us the care of these facilities and the people that are here. And then they, in addition to that, they also provide congregational support to all of the students who attend, regardless of where their church membership. It is a tremendous blessing. We should at least just thank God in His house for the partnership that we have in the 2 churches. And we're also going to thank God by closing in song and prayer. So if you don't know the tune to this, it's a song that we sing often, and we'll use it as our prayer tonight. But this is called the Doxology, where we praise God for all of His gifts to us. So I will try to find a tone, and we're going to go from there. Praise God from whom all blessings Day. Thank you very much. God be praised for all of his gifts to us. The last slide will just be your breakout session. So use your half sheet if you don't know where you're going. These are in 2 sessions in case you have siblings and need to go to 2 different locations. So 20 minutes apiece. We have about 5 minutes to get there right now, but you can kind of see where the grades are. If you have a student in GETS, you'll be in the classroom. So the K through 3 classrooms are open for them. Preschool is combined in the preschool classrooms, and Mrs. Ackman is doing an alternating session in Luther Hall. But God bless us on this school year. Have a great night.